Does anybody know the time?
2 minutes to start.
What's that?
2 minutes till we start.
2 minutes, okay. All right. Anybody want to share a story? That you found interesting?
Is it up front or?
Yeah. Anything you observed? I saw 2 squirrels out the window in the last session. So it must be mating season. He was overly enthusiastic and she wanted to got him. Do you have another? Oh, it's always a lot. Oh, no, I just got it. Actually, I gave the last one. Did you need one?
That's all right.
I can. Let me see. I don't think so.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't. That was a lot of and we still have leftovers from the morning sessions, so good answers get a stickers. That's that kind of day too.
Motivation.
All right. Shall we start? Yeah. Okay. The request was the shower. Does everybody remember the shower?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. So
We have to stand up.
you have to stand up first of all. Hold on a second. And basically, your hands is the gyrating water coming like this, and you want to get everything within a second. Okay, top to bottom. Okay? And then I'm going to ask you what part of your body really needs to be cleaned, and you're gonna shout out whatever that is, and then we're going to clean that for a second. Okay? Ready? Go. What part do you really want to clean? Armpits. Knees. Okay. What now?
Behind the ears, yeah.
Ears. What now? Toes. What now?
Elbows.
And 30 seconds running.
I don't know what that's
Okay, and last 10 seconds, 5 wonderful jumping jacks. Okay,
Make your head go up and down.
we love peer review. Okay, so as I mentioned, I can hand out the PowerPoint. It's actually better because that way you can go home tonight near the nice hearth of the fire and take notes about what you're going to do. But I'm not giving them to you now. Everybody knows why, right? Because there's a quiz, right? So this is worth the first chocolate. If you can tell me at the end why I decided to use that picture, I will give you a chocolate.
Because it was beautiful.
It is beautiful. That's fine. But you're from Budapest, right? No. Oh, good. Okay, so we've already done our exercises. We did the welcome. Introduction. Okay. I just want to say a word that peer review is something that most students in the beginning don't like. And at all the different conferences I've been to, teachers don't like it, okay? Because oftentimes it sets the students up to fail and it just doesn't work, okay? But I hope am I preaching to the choir? You all probably love it, right? And you do it every day? Okay, all right. I mean, I want it to, by the time we walk out that door, I want it to feel like you've embraced some spiritual being. And that spiritual being is peer review. So, I'm the goals of writing and editing, I just kind of want to go over, but it's interesting how close they are, if not identical. Okay? And again, this is all just to sort of frame it in your mind where we're going. And then, possible problems. Okay, and I came up with a list of last night of over 17, but I've narrowed it down to 3. Okay? And I want to get those from you too. And then some sweet solutions. Okay, that just kind of, again, it sort of frames the issue, and then the real solution is going to be the 4-part peer review. Which, if you already do, then you might as well just walk out the door and go downtown and knock one back. And then the benefits, I want to get the benefits from you too, now that you see how the system works, okay? I've got some, again, that I can give you, but I'm more interested in what you have to say. And question and answers at the end, but don't, go ahead and ask away as we go along, because you may forget if you wait to the end. Okay? Good? Nice. Okay. All right, so, before we start, this is me when I was 2 years old with my father in Ewing Park, Iowa, 1969. Okay? And my father always used to say, if there is personal interest and meaning, there is learning. If fun is added to the formula, the learning is endless. Okay? And I think, I mean, again, with the peer review thing, there's a struggle in the beginning. But his words, he passed last year, okay? But his words are there every day. And they kind of resound when we do the peer review, because there's that interest, that appreciation for the development of the process. And so I think it speaks to me still. So, the goals of writing and editing. The more you write, you see this, right? The better you can edit. The more you edit, the better you can write. So I think it's really one hand washing the other. And we'll talk about this a little later, but I'd like to see peer review as an actual language skill that's offered in the classroom. You know, you talk about the major skills, which are grammar, reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And the funniest one they always leave out is thinking. So why have critical thinking in there as well? And then sometimes you hear this, but error correction. There are some schools that introduce error correction. But again, I think this is sort of it's not really error correction because it's enhancing things sometimes. I mean, sometimes there are very few errors, but you're elaborating on something. But at any rate, I would love to see peer review as like, why don't they write texts on peer review? Right? Somebody in here do it, please. Now. Okay, so writing goals and editing goals. We'll go first. What's a writing goal that you can think of that starts with a C?
Sentence.
Construct.
Oh, communication. That'll be our third one. Nice.
Oh.
Okay. So clarity. Okay. So, but you think about it. So many times I'll have to tell the students, tone it down, simplify it. Because I think back home they're told the more elaborate it is, the more cool words they use, the better it is, right? And the best example of this was at UW-Madison, my wonderful professor, okay, in the linguistics department. Well, actually it was applied linguistics, okay? But we were doing conversation analysis. And basically, the whole 10-page article was about how adjective clauses are used in conversation. And it was really simple. But Tuesday morning the class met, and we looked at each other and said, what the hell was that all about? Because it was so convoluted. But the concept was so simple. And we asked, I won't tell the professor's name, because they're videotaping. But we said, Professor so-and-so, why did you make this so difficult? And her answer flabbergasted us. It was what? The more difficult it sounds and looks, the more intelligent I look. Right? And we thought, wait a minute. But you want us to understand it, right? And so I use that example with the students. Simplify it, keep it clear. Okay? But again, simplify, again, when the students are doing the peer reviewing, keep the statements clear and simple. Okay? Next one, the big one, coherence. Right? So, and again, coherence or cohesiveness, the whole thing of struggling with the paragraph. In fact, my 150 class this past term, it's a freshman comp. It's a university for credit class. But we spent a lot of time just back on the paragraph, working on the whole cohesion. There was a great presentation at TESOL last year from a professor from Eastern Carolina. And again, he focused on the importance of that paragraph. But getting that, and then again, the coherence and the editing as well. So they basically mirror each other. Mirror, mirror on the wall. What was the photograph you saw? Just okay. Communicative expression. What's that? Why is it important? Anybody? There is a Snickers bar for you. What's that? Oh, readability. Yeah. We'll go with that one. Woo! Nice. Okay. Yeah, I mean, we write to communicate, right? Whether it's poetry. What's that?
Vividness.
Vividness, right, yeah. I mean, the whole expression, whether it's whether it's a piece on neuroscience or whether it's a poem about the leaf or the squirrels outside just now. Okay? But communicating those ideas. And again, when you're writing the comments, same thing, right? So, what do all these things have to do with comfort? Tell me.
Nothing.
Nothing. The more the student can write clearly, right? The more they can write with cohesiveness, the more they can communicate,
The more comfortable.
the more comfortable they are, right? And that comfort just breeds right into control, and that control breeds right into confidence. And then in my mind, the most important thing, again, whether you're writing about chemistry, neuroscience, actuary science, or poetry, is that creativity, okay? Because it's the creativity, okay, now I've got this neuroscience concept that's really convoluted and hard. How can I be creative enough and expressive enough to get it so that everybody can understand it, right? But again, when they're doing the peer review and the editing, that creativity, okay, how can I not piss the person off that I'm criticizing or analyzing, right? So again, that creativity in a broad sense, it just kind of mirrors each other. Are we on the same page? No. I really want you to say, no, Patrick, you are totally wrong. I disagree with you. Okay? Because then we'll get some good discussion going. So if you disagree at any point in time, either throw a tomato at me or just raise your hand. Okay? Good? Yes! Hand raiser.
When you
Snickers
say
bar. Are you ready? Are you a good catcher?
when you say creativity, is it sort of political correctness or diplomacy in what we're criticizing?
For me, it's a love affair with the whole concept of creativity.
Imagination.
Imagination, yeah. So not politically correct at all. I just said it from the gut. I mean, just the creativity of what you're on a date with your wife or your husband or whoever, and the creativity of what brings in that inspiration at the moment, right? Not how's your dinner tonight, but oh my gosh, did you see the way she did her hair? Meaning the waitress. My wife will say that was really nice. I think I'll try that next week. Okay. So whatever, just taking in the moment, right? I mean, and I think we're losing that because of the FaceTime on the phone, right? My dad used to always say, Mom would come home from work and he said, let's ESP your mother to bring home a gallon of milk. And I had no idea what he was talking about until later. He would actually, do this to Mom, and Mom would come home saying, I stopped by the store for milk. And I thought, wow. And the other day it was so cool because I was thinking, I should call my wife. And I ran over to my phone, and I had like a cell phone that's from like 1930. You would laugh at it because there's no texting on it. It's just phone. Well, at any rate, as soon as I put my hand on the phone, it was ringing, and it was my wife calling me. So that Japanese smoki inshin denshin, that communication that we can develop without the cell phone. But now everything, So I think at one point Bill Gates and Steve Jobs made a pact with Lucifer, saying, "How can we destroy humanity?" What's coming in? Possible problems with peer review. Okay, so what are they? Well, I'll put mine up after you give me yours. What are
Ideas.
ideas? Okay, ideas meaning
Creating ideas.
okay, creating ideas to reflect on.
Brainstorming.
Oh, brainstorming. Okay.
The reviewer has less language competence than the person.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that was kind of more, too. Students, it's not my job. I'm paying you $1,500 for this semester. Okay, what else? Yeah.
Just noticing.
Noticing. Oh, nice.
Noticing grammar errors, noticing vocabulary choices.
Okay,
Just
right.
noticing generally, I
Oh,
guess.
yeah. That's worth a chocolate.
David.
David, okay, nice.
Thank you.
Okay, I mean, that, just parenthetical, we're off topic here, but that's okay. The one big thing that I've been working on in my writing classes is something called an observation journal. And I tell them that it's probably the single most important skill that they're going to learn while studying abroad. Because remember what happened in the terrible incident in New York City a few weeks ago with the guy driving the truck?
Yes.
Okay, if people weren't on their cell phones, or if they felt something, that inshin denshin, that feeling of something's going to happen, maybe fewer people would have been killed, right? But I tell them, that observation thing that they're doing, it's for survival. And the peer review. So David's idea about noticing is totally awesome. 2. Not only from my heart. But yeah, that whole idea of getting, and that's why I think that peer review or error correction should be a whole discipline, because it brings out that observation quality in the students and the teacher. Liz, do you have a?
Another one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Mhm.
Students just say, "Oh, your paper is great," and they don't give any.
Oh yeah. So that
Right.
yeah. So hopefully that's where this 4-part thing will get rid of those. So yeah, I mean you all got the same ones I did. Struggle with the process, the creativity, and the idea that I'm paying you $2,500 or $1,500 or at least 1,000. Okay, and that's your job. I don't get any of that money. And then the time factor. Okay, and that's where this 4-part one I think really helps out a lot. Okay, so solutions. What are some of the solutions that you can do to combat these problems? Carolyn?
You can walk students through the process.
Okay.
Break down forms, scaffolding.
Good. Yeah, I'll hit that. The whole idea of the model is so important, I think, especially because when we do the 4-part thing soon. I always start with a model so that they can see how. Yeah, a sample with a. I mean, a lot of our classrooms in the ESL department, we've got great technology, but a lot of the classes I teach are over in the English department, and there's zero technology. I mean, it's a room, okay, and there are chairs, which is good, and there's a whiteboard, okay, but I don't have anything to project. So a lot of times I'll just make an extra handout for the students, and we'll still work through it together. All right. Anything else? Yes, Liz.
Use peer editing groups rather than partners.
Okay, groups. Okay, yeah, we'll talk about the magic of 3 in a second. Okay, yeah.
Also use a lot of scaffolding so that their editing process is guided, so they kind of know what to look for.
Okay, yeah, and that would be in either the modeling, or we'll talk about in a second, step by step. How many of you start the peer review on day 1 with just setting the structure? Okay, good. We'll talk about that then. Okay, that'll be. It's always nice to add something to your life, as opposed to. Because you add something to my life. I should tell you parenthetically again. It's nice being here with you today. Okay. So
Likewise.
So this is the first one we kind of hit. Start as soon as possible at all levels. Okay. So even I've taught everything from basic to the credit classes at the university. In week 1, I do a lot of vocabulary. Okay. So I'll have the students just swap the sentences, and might just check for the subject, check for the verb, check for the cohesiveness. But start, because one big problem with talking with my friends and colleagues throughout the years is they'll start peer editing with an essay. And I think of starting peer essay in Japanese or Turkish, or my wife's language is Turkish, or Spanish, and I'm thinking, holy macaroni, mama, it sounds good, but I can't do it. But starting simple, so that peer review isn't, that daunting thing like, oh no, I'd rather pull my teeth through my toes than, so you're starting simple, and that gentle wave coming in. So again, peer review wraps around your soul like a beautiful breeze coming from the South Mediterranean Sea. So, and then we already start at the sentence level, and then kind of work up. Even like the same thing with paraphrasing. A colleague of mine always talked about paraphrasing paragraphs, and I think, holy macaroni, how do you do that? Start with a word. So again, just start simple, simple, and then make it a frequent activity. Because a couple of years ago, I asked a friend back in Michigan, how many times do you do it? And she said, well, for the midterm and the final. And I said, yeah. And yeah. So if it can become, in one sense or another, a weekly activity, or at least a bi-monthly, then, again, it's just all that comfort level, going back to our skills. I think the most important thing with writing, especially because I love it so dearly, but if the students can, I always tell them at the beginning of the semester, and I didn't put it up there, but I said, if you can walk hand in hand with the muse of writing, and whether that muse is a he or a she, walk hand in hand. You don't necessarily have to, propose to her or him, but just walk hand in hand and feel comfortable in the park. okay, then this class will have been a success. But that idea of just feeling comfortable with writing, to the point where I think I mentioned this at Kansas City, but I had a student once, never forget, Ken was his name, from China, and he was flying on spring break to LA, okay, and he wrote an email to me when he landed, and he said, "As we were in the air, I felt naked and lonely. And then I realized the reason why. I wasn't writing. So I asked the stewardess if I could get up and get my notebook, and I wrote about the clouds. Mr. P, I just wanted you to know." That's been 10 years ago now. But that whole idea of him wanting to write and having that infectious desire to write is so neat. Okay. And then, like Miss Carolyn said, and Liz, the model session. Okay. I probably should put the model session up there, but the model session, going through your doc cam. Unless you don't have it. The solutions. What's in the picture?
Bridging.
Bridging. Yeah. Walking on people. So, yeah, I mean, this is the big thing. We talked about, I can't peer review, or I'm not capable of that. But like David said, noticing the tiny things and then developing that trust. And so if you start early, really enhancing that. So I'll rotate through the classroom, and the student will say, my partner here, a lot of times I won't do it in class, but that's what I'll get to. But when they come back with what they've peer reviewed at home, he'll say, well, he wanted me to use this, or she wanted me to use that. I said, yeah, it's brilliant. Why don't you use it? So most of the times the student's intuition is pretty darn good. Okay. Now, granted, not all the time, but when it is good, praise it. Like you're at a Baptist church in southern Alabama. So, what's that? Oh, there was. Okay. That's right. Yeah. I just came out of nowhere, but I didn't think that. Yeah. So make sure the time factor, and that's why I've gone to the process that I have that I'll show you. Okay. And then this is probably the biggest one. And I'll show you how to incorporate it, is make sure the Peer's editing ideas are incorporated in the next version, okay? And that's part of the 4-part method, okay? And again, it's just a few words, that's fine. If it's a sentence, fine. You'll see how, we'll get to Sky's example in a second. Everybody good so far? Yes?
What is your solution for if the peer's editing ideas are wrong?
Yeah, good question. That deserves a Snickers bar. Do you want one? Oh, sorry. I wouldn't have gotten a horseshoe if I were. So now this is I'll ask a follow-up question. So is this a pair that works together a lot, or is it just a pair that's there for that day, or?
Well, let's do both.
Okay. So their suggestion is wrong.
Yes, their idea for how to fix it is incorrect.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
it's incorrect feedback.
Because they are.
Right. Yeah, and that. You're right. That happens frequently, right? So that's when I'm rotating. Then I'll go back and I'll say, well, actually, it should be this. But it's a good. I see where you're thinking, because a lot of times I can kind of see what their logic is. They've taken maybe a grammar pattern and just overused it. Okay. Or they learned something in another class and want to use it, or it's the way they were taught back home, wherever that may be. So, but yeah, be supportive and at the same time, like the Japanese Zen master. The beautiful story of the monk who cleans up the pond and gets all the leaves out, and it's perfect, it's crystal clear, and he goes to his master and said, okay, it's perfect, what do you think? And the master takes the maple branch and shakes it, and leaves fall in the water, and he said, now it's perfect. Okay, so yeah, shake that leaf a little, I suppose. We're good?
Do what? Shake it?
No, so we're good?
Shake that.
It's no longer permissible. I mean, shake their soul in a gentle way. All right, so back to Liz's about peer groups. I think this is a parenthetical because I no longer do a lot of peer review in class, okay? The actual peer review. And then I'll get to that in a moment. So I just want to say a note in class peer reviews and physicality. I found it's really magical. There is magic in the number 3. So I don't want to stand on this chair, but let's say that this is Smokey, okay, Mr. Kelly, and we're, Liz and I are looking at his paper, okay? So we got 6 eyes on one. And there's something magical about having a physical presence on either side of you while focusing on your paper. And again, if you want to do 2-on-2, that's or 1-on-1, that's fine. But I've noticed a lot of really positive benefits on having, focused, because you've got one person saying, oh, what about this or what about here? But just the physicality and being in the middle, it's done wonders when I've done in class. Okay. And again, you can disagree with me and say, I disagree. Your idea stinks. Okay. And that's fine. Okay. I respect that. But just try it once. You'll see that there might be something there. Okay. Now I won't say where this started, because again, it was one of those class dynamics where I needed to put 3 people together. But there was quite a bit of magic involved, and I continued it for the rest of the semester. Now I don't do a lot of in class anymore, but that's what we'll get at next. Any questions? Everybody good? Yes, David.
Just the logistics of that. So, if I use the example here,
Oh yeah.
like the
Oh yeah, just the feeling. So we're
are they all looking at one
yeah,
copy?
all
in the
looking at
middle?
one copy, right? So one person here, one person here. Here's Mr. Kelly, and we're going to say, okay, let's take a look at your first paragraph, okay? And so we're all focused on it. We're reading at the same time. And the key is, to get groups that have the same level of reading, so they're going at the same speed. You don't want one slow and too fast. But they're reading through it, and just that presence. When I've done surveys after that, students talk about a comfort and having 2 people there, so that comfort level is there and confidence because they wrote it. And at the same time, there's a little bit of stress, okay? But that stress kind of propels them to upgrade what they've written and doing the peer review, okay? So it kind of blends into what Liz was saying in groups, okay? But groups of 3 I found is the magic number. But again, try it. If you like it, great. If not, well, sorry. Okay, so let's start the peer review. Okay, so the 4-part peer review, basic is from day 1, review the rubric together. Okay, kind of goes what Carolyn said and Liz said earlier, where whatever that rubric is, kind of go over it, take a sample writing with the class. Have them on the dot cam or whatever you use, have them try to do as much of it as you can. But I found that simple is best. So if you look at the sheet that I gave you for just the paragraph, basically, there's the paragraph structure, which we were just working on the topic, bridge, reason, example, conclusion one. Grammar, punctuation, and spelling. Vocabulary, because whatever vocabulary I teach, I like them to incorporate that in the next lesson, so that we're constantly recycling the vocabulary from week 1 to week 15. Okay, so there's no downtime. And then cohesiveness or flow, and then overall content. So it's real simple. I've seen, like when I started teaching, I was given like a 3-page peer review sheet. And it blew me out of the water. I thought, holy buckets. Buddha, Muhammad, everybody, help me. I'm thinking, it's going to take me a week to go through one paragraph with all this. Okay, and the students, I panicked the students as well, because they were using a similar thing. Okay, so taking it down to just, the basics, where they can manipulate that as best as possible. And then I love thank you, Sally. And I love the 5-point system because, again, 10 is a lot, 20 is a lot for 25. But with 5, it's all manageable. So 5 is total thumbs up, wonderful, excellent. 4, very good. Not quite perfect, but really good. 3, okay, average, okay. 2, needs a little help. And number 1, OMG. And the students get, it's only 5, so they're pretty good at assigning those numbers. And the honesty comes out. It's like, well, you really need work on, there's no bridge here, or there's really not much of a connection between the topic and the reason it's going to support that. And the students respond to that nicely. It's like, well, 1, I need to really clean that up. Okay. 2, I need to clean it up. 3, well, it should be better, but it's okay from where I am at now in the semester. But just the simplicity of it. Good? Okay. And then So this is kind of the crux, the whole core. I've gone to peer review homework, okay? So let's say Sally and Nancy. Okay. So Sally and Nancy swap their assignment on Wednesday, okay? They're not going to meet again until Friday. So what I'd like them to do is go home with the assignment. So the brain needs a little break, time to reflect. Basically 5 parts, okay? So I have them take it home, read it once. Now, again, if it's just a paragraph, it's going to take less time, okay? But if it's an essay, it'll take a little more. But just that first time reading through, okay, kind of familiarizing themselves with the reading, okay? Put it down, do some calculus homework, and go back to it, okay? I mean, because I try to make it as practical as possible, the little handout that I give them. And then the next part, go ahead and read it, but this time for content, okay? Now again, if it's an essay, you know, you can still do it in parts, but reading it for content. And then the third time through, that's where they can go ahead and analyze it, make little annotations on the side, like Sky has, just on the paragraph there. Now, I want to make mention, too, that thanks to Sky, her partner, up to midterm, was getting a D-. And I saw that he was not going to make it. So I partnered him up with Sky. He finished the semester with a C+. Okay? And I take little credit for that. It was because her comments and everything were spot on. I didn't have to, I mean, that's one of the benefits for me is I went to, and I love him very much, Mr. Foltz. He's a wonderful man. He's helped me a lot, okay? But once he gave a presentation on cutting down grading for reading teachers, okay? And after the presentation, I said, Keith, there's more work in there than I had before. And he said, oh, let's talk about that later, okay? But ever since, what I loved about that presentation is it got me thinking about, okay, how can I minimize my time, spend more time with my wife, okay? And my little 5-year-old, and our cat, who you'll see at the very end, 22-pounder, okay? How can I, get the best education for my students and yet at the same time have them take more responsibility, okay? So that was Keith that planted that seed. And so I think having students do this, taking it home, so reading it, familiarizing it, reading it for content, and then start analyzing it, okay, is a huge help, okay? And then, what do? Probably go out and have a beer. Or alfalfa juice. So, alfalfa juice. They sell it really, the best alfalfa juice I've ever had is in Wichita. Never been to Wichita, but it was made in Wichita. So, third part, then, is that this is where the magic begins. So they bring their peer editing to class, okay, and they discuss it, okay. So why did you have a question?
No.
Oh no, you were just stretching, okay. So why did you make this comment? And they'll call me over, okay, and they'll say, hey, Mr. Randolph, I think he's on here, but I don't quite agree with this one, which brings your comment, what if it's wrong, okay? And then I'll gently kind of nudge and say, yeah, I agree with you. This comment is spot on. This one, I think you can let go. Okay, I can see where you're coming from. It's a good comment, but let's just stick with your first one. So there's a lot of, I'm kind of floating and helping them. They're doing the main work, but I'm just kind of the coach, blowing the whistle with the stopwatch. I remember my track coach in high school, big guy. He'd just sit there, timing us. Coach, why don't you run with us? That's why I'm the coach and you're the runner. So at any rate, I'm just kind of floating, right? But what are some of the things that you would glean from just this part of the peer review? The benefits. We'll get to the benefits later, but from just this section, what can you see going on?
Communication.
Oh, nice. Communication, negotiation.
Sharing ideas.
Yeah, sharing ideas. Nice. What else?
Build confidence.
Confidence, there you go again, yeah. On both sides, right? Because you've got the confidence of the editor and then the confidence of the writer. It's like, okay, that sentence was good. It was a nice relation to the next one, but I see where I need to work on this third one, right? So, yeah, but negotiation is the main thing and how that communication develops. And, at the end of the semester when I do just about every activity, I'll do a little survey with the students. And I love reading their comments at the end with, I didn't like peer review, or I had bad experience with it, but now I see it as a lot of them have called it, it's part of their writing process now. in the first draft, second draft. So I don't even touch the first draft anymore. And that's what cuts down on the grading time. Now again, it's not always perfect, okay? But this semester I was able to go a lot deeper into my comments. I wasn't worrying about grammar and basic things, content things. I was able to, okay, the first part and the second part don't quite, do you see how there's no cohesion there, there's not a connection, you're kind of veering off the topic. But I can go a lot deeper now with my comments. So it's like I've got the little work crew out there, doing the cleanup, and I can just kind of come in and do a lot more fine tuning. Okay. So is that good? Yes, David.
Sorry to keep asking questions. I'm just curious what that would look like in class actually. This
Oh, okay. So your neighbor is Maya. Okay. So you and Maya are sitting together, and we'll spend the first 15 to 20 minutes on your paper, and then the next 15 to 20 minutes on hers. But there's no peer reviewing actual going on. You're just reviewing your own comments that you made last night or the night before. So you're going through, let's say, the first sentence of the essay, and you say, she says to you, Maya says to you, your essay is about how you've come to assimilate into American culture, but the first 4 sentences are all about China. And the reader is now going to think you're back in China when you want them to think about being in Manhattan, Kansas right now. Okay? So there's discussion on, you're going through it. Now again, you're not, that's what saves time too, is you're not going through the whole essay, you're just going through the parts that they noted. Okay? So it might be the first paragraph and then skip to the third paragraph. The second was fine. I didn't see many issues in that. Okay. Good? Okay, everybody good? Okay. You're looking at me like,
I teach a quite low level.
okay. Okay. So let's take it to it. That's a good one.
They don't
Snickers
even
bar.
understand what they write, let alone somebody else.
So low level. So how could we help a low level group with this?
Back to sentence.
Yeah, back to sentence level. Yeah. And so I would say, and again, sometimes I think the paragraphs are taught in the like, you don't have to give a full paragraph. Why not work with a topic, sentence, and a bridge and a reason? Just start there, or even just start with a topic, and then gradually add on that example, and then the conclusion. But just go in bits and pieces. So you could do a peer review on just that. Does that topic
I feel
sentence
like it
kind
would be
of?
very hard for some of my students to give their paper to another student.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna take this home, wait a minute,
Okay.
This is mine, it's my
Okay.
baby, mine.
Okay. So I suppose you make a copy of it. I mean, I'm American pragmatist, so I make a copy of it so that they don't have that anxiety, and then go ahead and let
Have
them
them take a picture.
Or take a picture. Yeah, now everybody takes a picture. Yeah.
So going back to this particular example, you mentioned that this paper was reviewed by Sky.
Sky.
Who was the author? Who was the writer?
Another Chinese student.
Okay. Did this Chinese student review another person's paper, or did he?
Oh yeah.
review
So he
Sky's?
reviewed
Because
Sky's.
is like,
Yeah.
whoa.
I just put Sky's in here because his was pretty basic. Okay. He had some good comments, but I wanted to show because she took hers home. He didn't, I don't think.
Yeah. So like
Okay.
that's by the
So,
level
and
there,
that,
so
again, this was the first, as you can tell, it's just a paragraph, so it's the first part of the beginning of the term. Good point. Because I can see students, because I grade and research and write at the library. So I see a lot of my students. And sometimes I see them doing the night homework before class. And I make sure that they know that I see them. So what is that? Are you supposed to bring that home? Okay. It just takes a few times for word to travel around campus. Mr. Randolph has eyes in the back of his head. They asked me, what are the thick glasses for? It's actually my other glasses got broken right before Colorado TESOL. And so these are temporary, but I tell them they're extra thick because there are hearing devices in there. And I can hear everything on campus. What? So are we good? Okay. So then the peer review influence rewrite, and this goes back to what my dad said about having meaning and interest. And so if they can, and I have them show their partner what they implemented and what they didn't. And it can be done in a multitude of ways. You can either do an asterisk at the beginning and end, or just italicize that. Some students that are, the nouveau riche right? Okay. They bring color copies to class, oh, this is what my classmate said I should work on. So there are different ways, but I want it to stand out, okay? So just, it's impossible to know what was contributed unless there's the asterisk and the asterisk or the italicized or the bold or whatever they decide to do. But I want them to incorporate certain aspects of their classmates' work in their writing or set instruction.
So do you have the same pair all semester or all?
No, yeah.
They switch off?
Yeah. There are some that really groove together, like Sky and Mr. Tron, so I kept them together for a lot longer than others. But I thought it was necessary, because he benefited. Right. And again, what I find that's so amazing is a lot of the comments when I'm reviewing them, because of course it goes without saying the students get a grade for the editing, right? 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5. And a lot of times there's nothing else to add really. I'll just circle it and say nice comment or follow this. So that's what saves a lot of time too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So with this pair that you grouped,
Right.
so did anybody review Skies?
Oh yeah.
Did
Yeah.
he?
Yeah, he did. And again, it was pretty basic. But he found a few things, okay? She's not a native speaker, so she still made some grammar mistakes. And that particular one, I think it was a good comment. He said to add more detail in their example because it was, and again, this was early on, she went beyond that. But she just had a couple sentences that were kind of general. And so he said, more detail. But it was still beneficial for her. So again, hers was a lot more, his was real minimal. But it's what he was able to do. And it was, I think, 2 out of the 4 were effective, even for her.
Can you say hand in both?
Yeah, so
and
first and second draft.
So how do you grade that then?
The,
His compared to hers? Did he get an A and she get an A? Or?
oh, no. Yeah, she got, for the peer reviewing,
Yes.
he got like a 3, which was kind of average, and she got a 5.
Okay, but did he do his ability? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you mean in his actual writing?
No.
Or-
And the 3 here.
He's not as good at English as she is,
Right.
obviously, so he rose to his ability level.
Right.
Whereas she rose to her ability level,
Right.
which is higher than him.
Right.
So how does
How do you grade that?
Yeah, how does his ability level actually, I'm more interested in how his ability level, which was not to be able to comment much,
Right.
help her
Right. Okay. So
become a better writer.
right. So I think the key one for me, at least, was his little comment on the example. Because the spelling and grammar, I was impressed that he caught it, but the paragraph didn't hinge on that. But it did hinge on adding a little more example. And so I thought, well, that's a crucial part, because it's going to help him too, at least subconsciously, and then I'll develop that as well. So yeah, it's kind of, some of these get a little relative, but that's also why I keep it at 5 points, so if not 100. So, and they understand that the one, they just didn't do anything. And there were some students that did that, and they'd say, I got 1 out of 5, and I did the mathematics, and that's going to be 20% of my grade, or something like that. So they're really onto this. And I said, well, yeah, then you know what to do next time. Put a little more effort into it. So, yeah, in the back.
Was that a potential placement error if she came in with a much higher writing ability than he did?
Yeah, that particular class, everybody is at a for example, my student from Columbia, her writing, I think she could write some circles around some domestic freshmen. Her level of thought in writing is amazing. She'll have the, grammar error here and there, but the profundity of when she attacks a concept is amazing. And so a lot of them were there, but poor Charm, I think he was misplaced. Okay? That's why we gave him a little extra help. But that class, one neat comment in the class too is they felt like a family. And so that's the big thing that I probably should have put up here is creating that family atmosphere in the classroom all throughout the semester so that they feel that they can critique each other. Oh, okay.
Do you work on vocabulary?
Yeah, so that segment of each week, I know it's not a lot, but they get 5.
I mean vocabulary for critiquing.
That can be in there, right? Right. So they'll get that, but I want them to recycle that and use that as well. Good? Okay. So you've got Sky as an example. The benefits. It's fun. Right? Now in the beginning, no. But gradually, as time goes on, okay, there was a Saudi student, and he was the one who I'm thinking of now, that he said it was just fun developing a friendship and working with the writing with my Malaysian partner. Okay, so editing skills, okay? And again, a lot of this came out of the more I write and the more I work with editors on various quarterlies and journals. I mean, it's a long process. It's not like you write it and it's done and it gets published. You know, there's a couple, 2-3 months in there. And you're going back and forth, and the same thing with the editor. Most of them, I'd say 90% of them are women. So she'll say, you know, I really think you should change it to this way. And I say, you know, it just rubs me the wrong way. I can't do that. But other things that she'll make comments, or whoever it is, I think totally, I completely see that. Nice catch, okay? But it's a longer process. But it does get them to get more authentic editing skills, I think. But again, tell me if I'm wrong and you'll get a candy bar. Enhances critical thinking, because they're going to have to decide, okay, should we use the infinitive there? Should we use the jam? Should it be the past tense there? Should it be the present tense? What kind of word better fits here? Okay, so fits better fits. Okay. Have a fit, probably better. Develops better writing, okay? Even the comments, you can see the comments developing. Like Sky's, hers, the first, by the end of the semester, it wasn't just this. She'd be using the back page with comments. It was pretty amazing. And she stressed out. She had a really rough term, but she always said that the writing class at least gave her a peace of mind. Okay, so it made me feel good. Independence, okay, and again, that's going to develop over time. It's not going to be there even the first month. But gradually, as time goes on, it's really neat, as you know, to see a student make a statement in class and then correct themselves, that auto-correction. And they did a really interesting study. This has been quite a few years ago now, like 8 years ago, but it was with English speakers studying Spanish, on how they had them hooked up so that the brain actually understood when the mistake was there before their consciousness. So the brain would hiccup, and then they would go back and say, oh, okay, that should have been the el pretérito and not the imperfecto. But so the brain, it happens all the time, right? You're walking in the woods, and immediately you jump back because there's a snake, but you didn't see the snake to begin with, right? So the brain is always one step ahead of us. And if you can get them to pull that into the consciousness, then they're going to put you in their will. Or their bill. Or pay your bill for you. Highlights. Yeah, editing is a language skill, which I would like to see happen someday. And then, let me ask you the question, how does it nurture multi-sensory learning? If they're just writing on their own and correcting it on their own, you've got so there's almost all components there, right? Yeah, you're practicing the speaking, the listening, the grammar, the reading, the writing. I mean, it's multiple. Oh, we're ready to go. So why do a peer review?
It's fun.
It's fun. And to give life a colorful hue. And here is our 22-pound cat. So if you've got any questions, he's pretty good. He knows at least 18 English vocabulary. So there's a difference between treat and meal. Meal, he goes to the kitchen because he knows he's going to get the moist food. Treat, he goes to the back room, and our little daughter gives him the temptations. Oh, no, keep that, and then let me give you, so you can, thank you so much, and let me know what you disagree with and what you don't like. Send him an email and say, Mr. P, I totally disagree with everything you said yesterday.